Hi everyone, it's Coach Fred here again, and it's my rule number 2 and 3 of commas. I know you love following the math teacher teaching about commas, but here we go. So rule number 2, so this is video number 2 on punctuation. Rule number 2, use commas after introductory phrases or clauses. So anytime a sentence starts with a dependent clause or modifying phrase, it must be followed by a comma. So let's talk about that dependent clause for a second. We talked about them in an earlier video, but we want to make sure we understand that a dependent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb but does not express a complete thought. So here was the clause we looked at when Alana studied in the hotel lobby for her history test. That is a dependent clause. It started with that dependent marker word that I talked about in video number 1. So anytime you have that or a modifying phrase, then it has to be followed by a comma. So here's a great example, SAT example. So first of all, I look at the question. It's question number 21. So it's specifically talking about the word ethic and what's coming after it. I noticed that it's punctuation, so I know that I'm being tested on punctuation. Okay? I look at my answers, and I can easily see that all the words are the same with different punctuations. So the one given is a semicolon. We have a colon. We have a comma with and we have a comma. All right, so living independently and demonstrating an intense work ethic. Okay, so that's a dependent clause. Now, I know I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'll introduce it right here. You cannot use a semicolon after a dependent clause. A semicolon has to come between two independent clauses, so two full sentences. So number 1, I can't use a semicolon, so I'm getting rid of no change. A colon also has to follow a complete sentence or an independent clause. So that colon can't be used either. So this is rule number 2, in that I have a dependent clause or modifying phrase, and it has to be followed by a comma. So that leaves me C or D. But the word and is not needed in this case. So my answer would be D. So rule number 2. All right, let's move on. Rule number 3, use commas to separate items in a list. I saw a duck, a magician, and a grocery store when I went running. So that one's usually pretty common for kids, but I go through a process no matter what, anytime I'm looking at these questions. So here we've got question number 4, so I'm looking right here, the word scientist, a semicolon, and the word and. I look at the question, it looks like, again, I'm being tested on punctuation. Yogurt manufacturers, food scientists is not an independent clause. So like I just said, you can't use a colon or a semicolon. So I'm getting rid of A and B first. All right. So I noticed that yogurt manufacturers, food scientists, and government officials is a list. So I'm going to use that rule that you use commas to separate items in a list. So I know after food scientists, I need a comma. The question is, do I need a comma after the word and? And the answer is no, you do not need a comma after the word and. So my answer would be C. All right, so that's today's video, just working on those 2 comma rules number 2 and number 3. Come back for my next video where I'll go into some more comma rules and the videos on semicolons and colons. Have a great day.